Okay, so the first game we're going to go over, I think it was game 4 or something like that in the book. Now, this was between, I still don't know how to say his last name. I've always just said Svidler. If anybody knows, oh, it's actually that. Okay. Say if anybody knows Russian, they can correct me. But yeah, so he's been a very strong player in the scene for a long time. He's never been like world champion contender, but he's been top 10 before. He's always in the top 20. It seems like he's very strong.
Yeah, he was in the candidates tournament 2 years ago, I think. And
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a very articulate guy. He's a strong Russian player, but he's one of my favorite people to watch in the post-game press conferences because he's very good at explaining his thought process and analyzing. He's articulate in English. Yes.
So Bariv or
no, Svidler. Oh. Bariv, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, Bariv. I believe, I'm not certain that he's an older player. I remember seeing some games from the '90s. That was kind of his heyday. So back in the day, he was pretty strong though. I mean, I see all kinds of games where he played Karpov or Kasparov or something. So I think this guy used to be in the top 10.
Yeah, 27
I don't know for sure.
Is, his video rating there. That's nothing to.
Yeah, he's definitely not a weak player. But
okay.
Anyway, so let's get started with the game. So Bariv is known for playing the French. This is one of his favorite openings, and he plays a Rubinstein variation here as black. It's a little bit passive, but it's very solid. It's definitely his style here. So the opening is nothing really too special so far. And here White plays his bishop g5 move. Now this is interesting. So what White played here, or do you have a question? Yeah?
No.
No?
No.
Oh, okay. Just stretching?
Yeah.
All right. So here White played bishop g5 instead of retreating the bishop so that he can maintain that bishop on that strong diagonal. Because it locks down the bishop on c8, so it's pretty annoying for black. Now here, what do you guys think might be a good reaction from black? In the game, black did not play a very strong move. So what do you think he could have done better? Oh, well, actually his next move was okay. He played c takes d4. Yeah, I should mention. Although here, the next move, black has an improvement. Knight takes d4. Okay. So here, what do you think black should do? What is black's problem right now? Yeah.
His knight is pinned.
Oh, his knight's pinned, although really that's not so much of a problem.
So you need to castle. Can't castle.
Yeah, his king is in the center, and it's the D and E files are open, right? So this is kind of a big issue. So how can black take care of this? Yeah. So how can black try to annoy white while also getting ready to castle?
Bishop c5. Or e7, right?
Yeah, bishop e7 is probably a better idea because it breaks the pin on the knight. While bishop c5 does attack the knight, white can play a move like knight b3. And by the way, white is not losing a piece because if you take on d1, there's mate on d8. So the knight remains pinned. So bishop c5 is not really the right idea here. But bishop e7, black would be okay. White has a small edge, but it remains small. Now the game, black was too ambitious. He played h6. And this just neglects his development a little bit too much. So white has to play bishop takes or else he loses a piece. Now queen takes. Now white has an interesting situation. So immediately it doesn't look like white has anything too special. Like little simple tactics don't really work so well. So for example, if knight b5, which is tempting, try to get that fork on c7, black can play queen e5. And this hits the knight on b5 and the bishop on e4, and the queen is very strong on e5. So this doesn't really work for white. But the problem here for white is that black has no weaknesses, really, and he has the two bishops. So if black manages to get his king castled away and reach an endgame, then it's not going to be looking very good for white. So as white here, you must play very energetically. But how can you create a threat here? You know, moves like queen f3 come to mind, but then black just trades queens, getting into the endgame that he desires we talked about. So how can white just make a threat? Cheapo time. Yep.
Knight c6.
Knight c6. Now, this is like hope chess, I would say. So,
you hope he takes.
So black cannot take the knight. This is true, but knight c6 actually threatens nothing. So,
Is queen h5? I'm just trying to get the queen.
Yeah, queen h5 is the right idea.
Okay.
Not quite the right implementation. So what's your idea with queen h5?
Well,
Your move does have a one move threat, so
yeah.
it doesn't quite work, unfortunately, but we'll ignore that for now.
Okay.
So say after queen h5, so you can go ahead and play that if you like.
Because I'm thinking trying to get the queen.
So say queen h5, say black plays bishop b7, getting ready to castle.
Okay.
White can then win.
Wait,
Queen G4?
Queen g4 after bishop b7?
No.
No. When do you go queen to?
So right now,
B5,
just
queen
yeah,
B5
just
check.
where?
When you go queen b5 check.
Okay, queen b5 check. That does also win, but white has a more precise method.
Oh.
Could you go knight b5?
Well, in that case, black could then castle away. Immediately, it's knight b5, like you said, queen e5. So we're looking at right now queen h5, bishop b7. If you can find the right move for white there, you'll probably see what white should play in the actual game. So queen b5 check is the right idea.
Yeah.
So one good idea when you're looking at a specific tactic, like win a pawn, try reversing the order in which you play it.
Oh.
So you're trying to capture b7, right?
Right.
With queen b5. So try reversing the order. You know what that means? Okay. So try the second move first.
Okay.
So after queen h5, bishop b7, bishop takes b7 wins.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Bishop takes.
Because after bishop takes b7,
And
then
you
queen
get
b5,
check, and then you can only block.
and then
Oh.
you take it, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So this is actually a common tactic in this Rubinstein opening for white. So queen h5 is the wrong way, unfortunately, because black can just take knight on d4.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Well then,
let's try to get our queen to b5, or threaten it anyway, without letting go of the knight on d4.
Queen d3.
Right, queen d3.
oh,
Yeah, and this is very strong here because you don't give black time to breathe. Again, bishop b7 just fails because bishop b7.
right.
So black has a very concrete threat. So here he plays a6, I think. Yeah, to stop queen b5. And what happened here? Okay. And so again, you have to continue playing energetically. How can we try to make black uncomfortable here?
Can you?
Rook D1.
What about?
Which rook, by the way?
Rook A D1.
Yeah, rook A. Yeah. Why is A better than F in this case?
Because if you move the one on the F, you'd kind of trap the one on A.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Your F rook is kind of being defensive and it has a purpose, whereas the rook on A doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, with the F rook, I could conceive of defending F2, right? Say black plays bishop C5. Then if I move my F rook, it's all of a sudden pinned. But if I move the A rook, it's not a problem. And it's pretty hard for me to conceive what use the rook could have on A1. So rook A1 is definitely the right idea.
What about bishop c6?
Well, bishop C6, I think black can just take it.
Then,
And then
knight takes with the we made threat because the queen covers a square down.
Right. Good idea, though.
Okay, so rook
yeah.
A D1.
Yep.
Okay.
And now black's trying to get castled, so he plays bishop E7. And here, white can't actually stop black from castling, but he can make it a poor decision. So Lucas hit on an important idea on the previous move.
Wait, I don't know why, but for some reason a sack from bishop to h7 is screaming out at me. For some reason, wouldn't that
Sack?
be castling?
It's not sacking.
Well, I mean, would it prevent No, it wouldn't prevent It wouldn't prevent castling though too.
By the way, if bishop H7 right away, then G6 just traps the bishop.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to what you were saying. Okay, that because you want to open up the.
So by the way, this is a point in your games when you should definitely think for a bit. This would be a critical position, right? It's kind of boom or bust. If you don't get something now, then your initiative is going to fizzle out, and it's not going to be good.
You don't want to go knight to d5? b5.
Oh.
So
Oh.
if knight b5, black can actually take and then play king f8.
Now c6 works. No,
No, yeah, now.
it doesn't. Dang it.
Well, bishop c6 doesn't work, but
No, it doesn't.
Knight c6?
yeah, knight c6.
Oh, I'm trying.
This may also look like hope chess again because black could just castle, right? Clearly, black can't take the knight, by the way, because of the fork. But if black castles, then how does white get a basically clearly winning position?
Queen to d8.
Well, if black castles here, he can. It looks like he's fine after that, but white can get a great position.
Bishop.
Yeah, bishop h7.
h7.
Bishop h7, then king h8.
Just trap.
Take the bishop.
Yeah, just take the bishop.
Check.
The problem for black is that after. By the way, do you have trouble visualizing this, or should he actually play it out?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you actually play this out? I think it's
Sure.
kind of important for them to see it.
Okay,
So
so
castles, knight takes, queen takes, and now white has a great move here. Yeah.
Bishop h7.
So what's your idea with bishop h7? You're moving it from the diagonal we wanted to keep it on, right?
Oh, okay.
Great move.
So what problem does black have in this position?
He's compacted.
His bishop can't move anywhere.
Yeah, his bishop is kind of stalemated, right?
Okay.
What network of squares is weak for black here?
Black.
Black squares, right? Right. So how can white remove a dark square defender? What black piece guards a dark square?
Pawn or queen.
Yeah, the queen is the sole defender of the dark squares for black. So how can we try to get rid of it? Yeah, queen d6. Yeah, this is
Oh, okay.
very strong in this position because the endgame is hopeless for black. Because black's never going to be able to develop a light squared bishop.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to be able to play the d7. It's kind of hard to move that b pawn. So this is just a bad position for black. And if black doesn't trade queens, then white will play moves like queen b6, and white has total control. So that this endgame is unacceptable for black. So anyway, going back to the game, after knight c6, which is what Svindler did play, he played e5. See, what he's trying to do here is try to get his bishop out, at least hopefully. Now if he castles, he'll be okay. So what should white do here? By the way, black also makes a threat of taking the knight. Now the queen defends c6, so what should white do now?
He wouldn't prevent the bishop from getting out. H6.
H6?
I don't know. I'm just trying to. Oh, H3. I'm sorry, H3. I was just trying to see if there's a way to prevent them.
And you do have the right idea, by the way.
Okay.
That's
Because he's never going to take the knight because there's a fork there.
well, like I said, the H3 would lose because B takes C6. Why did black is actually threatening to take that knight right now?
Oh, okay.
Because the queen at F6
Oh,
guards
yeah,
it.
F6. Okay. So you need to find a way to get.
So to keep the initiative, we have to be efficient. So how can we solve the threat of the knight with gain of time?
Trade.
Yeah, just take the bishop.
No. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you get rid of that piece, and now you have time to pursue your plans. So now again, it's still a critical situation. If black is able to castle, then he's going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
So what you said the last move about playing against the bishop on c8, that's kind of important here.
Okay.
So how could white play against the bishop on c8 now that he has this open diagonal, c8, h3?
Oh.
How could he possibly stop it from coming out there?
Bishop f5.
Bishop.
Well, bishop f5 is a trade.
Oh,
Yeah.
then just trade your active bishop for his
Oh.
inactive bishop.
Mhm.
B3.
So if queen b3, black would castle. And it does temporarily stop black from moving the bishop, but he can guard it with like rook b8. and then he can go from there. So try to create a cage for that bishop on c8. How can you make a cage around it?
Um,
So we want to stop it from going to e6 or g4,
Right.
How can we stop that?
Queen d5.
Queen d5? Well, queen
Then he
d5,
goes
again, it's the same as queen b3, right?
Okay, so it's gonna be a pawn. I mean, if you push f3, then it eliminates.
B3.
f3 does not stop bishop d6.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think out loud.
So where can we put that f pawn where it would stop bishop e6?
F3.
On f3?
No, that doesn't stop bishop e6 though.
Takes away that square, but it doesn't take away
Yeah.
that square.
Oh, F4.
Yeah, f4,
Because then
exactly.
If pawn takes, then you have something getting the queen.
Oh.
Yeah, so White's idea, first of all, is that if Black castles, like he's been wanting to do for so long, White plays f5, and that bishop stays in its cage. Yeah.
Oh.
And
okay,
Black,
so it's a two.
and Black ends up with that bad endgame after queen d6 still.
You gotta make that move, yeah.
Okay.
Just put a sad face on the bishop.
Yeah, by the way, this was probably Black's best option, although it's a bad position. Maybe you could hope to save a rook endgame or something. And the game he took an f4, but this loses instantly. So now we get to play tactics. How does White win? The E file is nice and juicy, right?
Right.
Bishop takes B7.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah, so we definitely do it with gain of time, right? Because we attack the rook on a8. So Black has no time to just castle away. Now he has a problem, so you take the bishop two ways. Take it with the queen, it's mate in one.
Yeah.
Take the bishop on b7, then rook e1 now pins the queen. So it's unfortunate for Black because with the bishop on c8, he can block the e file on e6. But there's no other way to take that bishop on b7. Now rook b8 loses to what? You can't just save that.
Still got this.
Or rook e1, then bishop e6.
When you go bishop,
Ah.
well, bishop c6, check.
Yeah, bishop c6 forces king f8. And then what?
And, oh,
Queen
queen
D8.
to d8.
Yeah, queen
check.
d8. And we win the rook on h8. Black has to trade, and then we take it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because he's losing so much material, Varib just resigned.
Okay.
Yeah, so every move, the value of what White played was very high. Made the difference between Black being perfectly fine and White having just a completely winning position, basically. So this is kind of interesting. So the way you can identify this in your own games, if you see you have a long-term disadvantage, your opponent has like two bishops, no pawn weaknesses, you should probably start thinking and trying to make something happen. So that's what people mean, like Carlson, when they say, oh, I just play what the position demands. This is the kind of thing that he's talking about. Here is where you should definitely look for tactics, right? Yeah.
And also, it seems like that there was great value for White to just think, okay, how do I keep that bishop from coming out? How do I keep him from castling?
Right.
So it's not so much an idea of I'm just going to try to win material. How do I win a pawn or something? It's how can I make his bishop sad, and how can I make his rook sad because the bishop's sad, and how can I keep his king in the middle, which is going to give me tactical opportunities to win, and executed it. Had a little help, I guess, by taking on f4, but still.
Yeah, taking f4 was a blunder, although, after castles f5, White just has an easy position. Yeah.
Yeah, that's me saying I want to get back to my hotel room. Okay.
All right, so let's go to the next one.
All right.
All right.
Grishchuk versus Kamsky. You have their ratings there. Kamsky's won the U.S. Open 4 or 5 times, I think. One of the top American players. Grishchuk is also one of the strongest players in Russia and has won and has been in the candidates tournament a couple times. And And so, again, two really strong players here.
Some interesting personal notes. So Grishchuk is actually like a world-class poker player as well. And then Gadakamsky is actually a lawyer. He took a very long hiatus from chess to actually get his law degree. So it's kind of unusual. I think after he lost the world championship match to, I think he actually played Kasparov.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, he then took, I forget how many years off, like 10 years or something. And now he's back and he's still a top level GM, so kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
You ever played Kamsky?
Kamsky? No.
Just curious. Okay. So this one we need to go to move 9s. All right. So.
Yep.
So Rui Lopez and Morphe defense, and now we develop the knight. This is all well-established opening theory. Okay. Do you view that h3 move as passive, or are you just trying to take that square away from the knight?
So opening note. So h3 is actually a anti-Marshall idea.
Oh, the
do
Marshall.
Do you guys know what the Marshall attack is?
No, it's
So the Marshall attack would happen after white plays c3, and then black would immediately play d5. Yeah, Marshall attack, Marshall gambit, either
Yeah.
way. Black sacrifices the e5 pawn, gets lots of open lines for his pieces. So white really didn't want to allow this. It's a lot of theory. There's a lot of theory here. It goes very deep.
yeah. The Marshall attack goes like to move 25 or something, right?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's pretty well analyzed. So
Okay.
he just wanted to avoid that.
So,
So by the way, the Marshall attack is less effective here if you play d5, because white retains the c3 square for his own knight. The problem with c3 is it hinders your development, so it's not nearly as effective here. So that's why d5 isn't good, just if you were wondering.
gotcha.
Okay, so d6, I think, or bishop e7. Okay.
D3, and then this is where you want to
Yeah,
zero.
after d6, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so with d6, actually, black is making a threat. Not winning material, but a positional threat of sorts. If it was black's move again, what do you think you would play? And this is crucial in the Rui Lopez.
Knight a5.
Knight a5, exactly. Black rounds up this bishop.
You studied this opening. Yeah.
Yeah, white really wants to keep this bishop. It's very important.
And then this sad bishop has nowhere to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of twofold, the reason, actually. So the bishop on b3 is a strong piece in itself. And also, the knight on c6 in the Rui Lopez is almost universally a problem piece for black. Black usually has trouble finding a role for that piece. Because the e5, that's not really a problem for black. And on c6, after white typically plays c3 in the Rui Lopez, it's just worthless. So just kind of twofold there. Anyway, so in the game, white decided not to play c3, but he played a different move, a3, to keep the bishop. So here, he has a different strategy than with c3. So when you play c3, your idea is to play d4. But in this position, having already played d3, it's not as effective since he moved the pawn twice. So with a3, he's keeping the c3 open, c3 square open for his knight. Exactly. All right. So a3, and then I'm not sure what happened. h6. Okay. h6, by the way, just opening note, this is kind of a mistake. Black should play knight a5, followed up by c5. Black really needs to try to get some space. So anyway, h6, c3.
And then knight c3.
Yeah, I can just keep going. Okay, by the way, back up a couple moves. With knight d5, white is simply making another positional threat, starting to take the bishop on e7, just get the two bishops. So for black, bishop f8 would be possible, but just very passive. He's trying to be efficient, just take the knight right away.
You see white make that bishop f8, bishop f1 move sometime, but yeah.
Yeah, it's very common in king pawn openings. But
Yeah.
anyway, knight takes, bishop takes. Okay. Now white prepares d4 anyway. By the way, black with knight d8, he's just trying to get rid of that powerful bishop on d5.
Something.
Yeah. But white just plays d4 because if black takes on d5, it makes his knight on d8 very poor. So white's not too concerned. Now I think bishop f6. think, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is an important moment. So, how can White continue to improve his position? White has a lot of kind of innocuous, decent-looking moves, like maybe bishop e3.
They don't like that though.
Yeah, but it's a common move to think about anyway, just because, oh, I'm developing my pieces.
Right.
But here, it just doesn't improve your position.
Yeah, I
So-
want the queen to move.
Queen B3.
Queen B3, yeah.
Well, queen b3 is actually not a very good choice.
Okay, well, I want the queen to move though. So queen b3 is bad because?
Well, how about you guys answer?
Ah.
Bishop takes.
Bishop takes on.
No.
Oh, because then just pawn takes.
Yeah, you should be very wary when reducing the scope of your own pieces, which queen b3 does. What do I mean when I say that, you guys?
Number of squares they can move.
Yeah, number of squares, right?
Yeah.
By playing queen b3, you get rid of the bishop's only way back, right?
Ah.
Yeah, it's kind of like being on the front line and pushing the guy ahead of you going forward or something. It's
Pawn
kind
six.
of
Pawn
yeah,
six.
yeah, it just wins the piece, right?
Okay. Warren's lesson of the day: don't have sad bishops, and make your opponent have sad bishops.
Yep.
Queen D3.
Queen d3. So how does that improve your position?
Because then if they take bishop and you take, then you have an open diagonal for your queen.
So you're gonna play queen h7?
Not if they take that bishop. That's not the cards.
I like queen d2. Because
Queen
that's a really
D2?
Open diagonal there. I mean,
What's your idea with queen d2?
well, let's see. Oh no.
Yeah, this is what separates grandmasters from the rest, right?
Right.
They always make purposeful moves. Yeah,
That bishop becomes sad.
yeah.
Oh.
Well, queen d2 is all right. It's just not good.
Let's see. Okay, so the would improve.
What about is there any purpose in trying to get your knight here? Like you
No, that would be an
Can't do
interesting
that, though.
idea.
It's
Yeah, it looks
hanging-
very hard here,
The
though.
bishop will just take.
Oh yeah.
I like that you're thinking of rerouting the knight, though.
I'm trying to think of what
That's a
squares are
great
really
idea.
nice for the knight, and also make that queen very
Okay,
sad.
knight H2.
There you go. Yeah.
Interesting.
So even though White doesn't have other developed pieces, he plays this move.
Oh, knight h2 to knight g4.
Yeah, g4 is a very unsettling square for Black. By the way, in king pawn openings like this kind of lock structure, that's a common like strategical idea. So this should be something to think about in most of these kind of positions. Because on g4, that since Black has played h6, it opens up some interesting ideas for sacrifices. And we disturb the position of that bishop, making it kind of. It was a pretty nice piece there defending e5, and now it's uncertain.
Okay.
So anyway, I don't quite remember how Campsy reacted here. I think, okay. And yeah, so this is an important point too. So White does not waste time taking on d4, since the threat to double Black's pawns on the king side is not something Black can allow. So he has no time to just pawn grab here. So I think he plays, yeah, bishop g5. Now he could have also played bishop e7, but White has a nice shot here.
Let's play through and see that.
There's a reason Black did play bishop g5 instead of this. If you think about the difference, you might find White's move here.
Knight takes H6.
Knight takes h6. You know, that's interesting in its own right, but I think it doesn't quite work because Black can take and then play bishop f8, I think. And I don't think White can make any more direct threats.
So you're saying take and then bishop recapture or bishop f8 first?
Oh, so it will, knight takes h6 is check, so Black has to take.
Oh, yeah.
And then after bishop takes, bishop f8. I think Black is doing okay there.
And then bishop f8, okay. All right. So bishop e7 doesn't work because...
You want any hints? I'll tell you something I told you earlier. So if one way doesn't work, try it the other.
Yeah, or
Bishop
take
takes.
with a
Or
bishop.
the other piece, yeah. So let's look at bishop takes this time, yeah. Now this is more challenging for black because, by the way, generally speaking, knight and queen work better than bishop and queen because they don't duplicate each other's functions, right?
Okay.
And black has a problem here because if he plays king g7, then white has knight f5, followed by queen h5, and it's unclear how black is going to stop checkmate there.
And then f5 move is really nice because it blocks the queen from defending at all.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so knight e7.
So yeah, so bishop e7 is not so good. So he plays bishop g5 to stop this sacrificial idea. Now white takes a chance to double black's pawns. I think he just took right away. Oh no, I guess he took on d4, okay.
Yeah.
So here he's not afraid of bishop c1 because he moves rook to the c file. All right, go. Okay.
Do we have more?
Now black did relieve the pressure of the bishop on d5, but unfortunately he kind of hemmed in his own knight. So it's kind of a problem here.
Do we have another exchange?
No, he plays king f8 here to stop queen e8,
Yeah.
trying to stop
Oh.
white from invading.
Yeah.
Now finally, I think white here takes on g5, trying to double those pawns when he can.
Okay.
Now how do you see white further improving your position? Now here there's a couple tempting moves, so, well, one really. I think rook c1 is very tempting,
Yeah.
right? Just attacking that weak c7 point. But one general rule of thumb that'll help you stray from that kind of move here is if you can have any open file, it's best if it's closer to your opponent's king. Good rule of thumb, by the way. If you have a choice, open files to go after, always try to take the one closer to the king.
Queen e4.
Queen e4 is the right idea, but I think f5 wins the knight. Or if not wins the knight, then buys black time because after like queen f3, black plays knight f7, and it looks like he's doing okay.
So queen e3.
Yeah.
Also attack the pawn.
Yeah, queen e3, just a little different implementation this time, right? So we attack g5. We're not leaving ourselves subject to a fork either.
Right.
Now f5 is much more dangerous this time because of rook e1, right?
Yeah.
And we're threatening checkmate. So this is a problem for black. So I think in the game he played f6, trying to guard that pawn.
Yep.
Now again, rook e1,
Right.
getting that file. Now queen d7 to stop the mate. And how do we break through from here? White's rook and queen are pretty awesomely placed. The knight's kind of hard to reroute immediately.
I mean, positionally, White's doing okay with that knight being really stuck and the rook being
Oh yeah.
really stuck, but do we value to sacking the knight on e5?
Here I don't think it quite works. I think black can play d takes and then queen takes d5. I think black is doing all right.
Okay.
By the way, do you think white should rush here, or does white have time, you think? He has time? So it helps me when these kind of positions to think about it. So if you get rid of all the pieces on the board, who is the better in game? Yeah, white has these double pawns on d4 and d5. That makes it kind of annoying, right? Because he can't even move them. Having immobile pawns endgame is always a bad sign, right? Whereas at black's discretion, he may break with c6. Okay, so the endgame is not good for white. So that's a good sign if the endgame loses for you that you have to try to seize the initiative somehow.
Play something like
want
F4.
if we want to open up the king side. Now f4 is a good idea, but black can take, and after white takes on f4, the unfortunate thing is that lures the white queen from the open e file.
Right.
And then after black can play like knight f7 and kind of consolidate his position.
Yeah. Thought about knight f7, but knight f7, I mean, works as a defender, but the knight doesn't go anywhere.
Well, the idea of knight
I
f7 is
guess
just
here.
rook e8 actually.
Oh,
Black's
okay.
trying to trade pieces.
Gotcha. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
f4 was the right idea, so that might give you a hint.
What about h4?
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
So the queen does not actually attack that knight because it's just checkmate on e8. So
Yeah.
h4 serves to try to break apart these pawns.
Yeah, because that h6 square for the queen looks nice.
Hmm. Now, so white's obvious fitting just take the pawn on g5. Now, if black takes the white pawn on h4, then white will play queen h3, and the open h file is going to serve white nicely.
Right.
So black decided not to try to open up the position, so he played knight f7, trying to get rook e8 in. So how does white continue now? That's definitely a serious threat here. So you might be thinking of a couple of moves. Remember, you have to stop rook e8 here. If black's able to play that, he's going to be okay.
I think I might play queen h3.
It's white to play. So queen h3 is tempting, but black will still play rook e8.
Yeah, and then trade. Is it queen
Yeah, white does not want to trade here.
Yeah, the queen e6,
Nope.
that's what I was thinking, queen e6.
Yep, queen e6, right idea. Now, although white has offered to trade queens, if black takes, then all of a sudden white's pawns are fixed. And he'll get this beast of a pawn on e6.
Threaten the knight.
So black does not have time to play rook e8. So that's the problem. So I think he plays rook d8 to defend the queen.
Right.
Now we want to break apart these black pawns, but taking on g5 does not succeed because black just plays knight takes. Okay. It'd be awesome if we get the white knight to f6, right? Somehow.
Right.
Just take the pawn.
Well, you could, but you lose a knight, right?
Yeah, you get 2 pawns though. What about h5?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. h5 is pretty killer because you're threatening h6 already.
Right.
And black cannot take because you either get the queen fork on f6 or the knight comes f6 and it's devastating either way. So black has a serious problem here. Oh, I can't remember what he played here. I think f5 or something. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Now we have a critical situation here. If we just move the knight back, then
Yeah, momentum's over.
yeah, you lose that attacking piece. Black will play like knight h6, and it looks like he might be able to entangle.
You take with queen.
Queen.
Yeah.
Well, if queen takes, rook takes, then black's fine.
No, the pawn.
The pawn on f5?
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
No.
no.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Knight e3.
Well, knight e3, then I think black can play knight h6.
What about h6?
h6?
I thought about that, but
Then pawn still.
h6, then black just takes a knight.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, after h7 does look interesting because the knight's tied to f7, but it's unclear how white can make progress.
You. Takes forever.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I was thinking like queen g6, but you said the queen wants to stay on e.
Yeah, pretty much black's response to most every white move is going to be either knight h6 or taking the knight if you leave it. So.
I mean, but the thing is like, you know, queen g6, this takes maybe too long also. Wait, no, that's not even a threat. Dang
Yeah.
it.
And so any way back for white's bad. So by process of elimination,
Charge.
Queen.
knight h6, knight takes h6.
Knight
f6.
Queen.
Knight f6, yeah, that's the right square.
Threaten queen.
Yeah, now black cannot respond with the universal, you know, whatever knight move because queen's under attack. Also, by the way, if knight h6, knight h7 is made, you know.
Yeah.
So here black doesn't have much choice. He can't take the queen because of d takes, and e7 forking the king and rook is threatened. So black is in dire straits there. So he has to take the knight. There's no other way. And now just queen takes. And this little h pawn is going to cause black quite a headache. Now he tries to relieve himself a little bit. He plays rook e8, trying to get rid of the rooks. But how does white continue here? Rook e1 comes with check, so we don't have time to just push the pawn.
Right.
E6.
Rook e6, yep. Now here we keep control of e7,
Oh,
right?
and there's that nasty pawn on e.
And
again.
black cannot take on e6 because of the fork.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a bad situation. I'm not sure how black can continue here. I think he played queen d8 or something. Yeah. Now what's the final touch here? March the pawn? Well, if you play h6, then black can trade queens finally. And then he's at least not going to lose. Well, he's actually winning after that, I think. For example, h6, queen takes, rook takes, king e7. And black's up a piece there. So we can't trade queens. This is actually kind of simple here, right? So if you can't trade queens, what's the only square you can move your queen to? Well, I say only square. There's a couple choices, right?
F5?
Queen f5, yeah. We pick up a pawn, and black still can't trade rooks because the knight's pinned, right? But we're still threatening h6. So here, I'm not sure how much further black played. It's already kind of hopeless, but yeah, g4 is kind of desperation. Yeah. Yeah, here he just gave up. Queen g7, queen g8 mate is threatened, and h7 is also a threat, by the way. So it's kind of hard to suggest anything for black here.
Or sorry, g8.
No,
Not g7. Not h8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions about this game or anything? It's kind of a nice tying in of like strategy and tactics here, right?
Pourquoi il finit jamais, Paul? Quoi? Pourquoi il finit jamais?
So,
Je sais pas, il a
one more?
give up.
One more.
Yeah. What time is it? I guess.
4:38.
Okay. Yeah, we have time for one more.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's
move
one's
6.
simple. Yeah.
So we have, looks like a closed Sicilian. What is
Yep.
that? Is that part
Oh,
of
this-
closed Sicilian?
Yeah. This is interesting. It's kind of a bizarre opening, by the way. I think
Yeah.
the best response is knight d4. I don't know if black played that. No, he did not, or she did not, by the way.
Okay, so
These are two women playing.
gives the option of doubling up pawns.
Yeah, I think white just took on c6 right away.
Yeah, I mean, usually if you play bishop b5, you're committing to take that knight, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is kind of an interesting positional note, by the way. So normally in the Rosalimo, bishop takes c6 is not such a. I should mention the Rosalimo is when you play bishop b5 in the Sicilian. Okay. Now normally it's not a problem for black if white takes on c6, but here he has the additional option, or she does, I should say, of moving the f pawn. Now it's pretty relevant because it gives white more control over dark squares than white normally does. It stops black from playing e5. It's kind of important. So we'll see that
Is that what
happen.
happens at 4?
Yeah, I think so. Like bishop g7, f4. Yeah.
Yeah.
This additional option just gives white a clear edge here.
I love playing f4. I love it. Like against the Sicilian, there's 11 fish, there's a Grand Prix, and both of them integrate kind of a F4 idea. And it kind of weakens your king side, but it's what I love about the Sicilian because it's like I'm going to throw my pieces at your king, and we're just going to see what happens. It's super sharp, but it's a lot of fun. And if you know the Grand Prix, or if you know the 11 fish really well, and your opponent doesn't, you can blow them off the board pretty quickly. Anyway.
So, by the way, what's your impression of E6? What do you think?
Kind of stop at 5.
Doesn't stop it.
Does it?
The D5.
Well, I guess what I'm really asking is, do you think this was a good move, a bad move?
Good.
Do you think he had a better move? Or she? So I keep saying he. These are women playing. Okay, she. Anyway, do you think it's passive?
It's good.
It doesn't really achieve. You're not developing.
It's prepping. Is it prepping D5? Is that the goal?
So I think Black really just wanted. Well, it's such a poor move from my perspective. I can't really justify it, but going back to the position before E6, what's Black's problem in this position? Black does have a problem.
Control.
What's that?
No center control.
Oh, Black's controlling D4 pretty well, actually. So Black's not really lacking in that.
Don't.
I mean, Black has the 2 bishops. White's not really opening the center and attacking her, right?
To try to castle, you're pretty much done. You're either gonna have your knight blocking your bishop, or it's gonna be on the edge of the board. I mean, development's not very strong.
So what happened in the opening? Did Black emerge with a perfect position?
No.
Double pawns, right? Yeah, double pawns are a serious issue, right? And you should never take those lightly. Yeah, Black has 2 pawn islands, weak pawn on C5. This is a serious issue. Now, how can Black try to at least make the problem with the C5 pawn not so bad?
Oh, she goes F6 so she can develop D5 later, so she can undouble the pawns.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
What? F6?
She went F6 so she could go D5 later, so she can undouble the pawns. Right?
Oh, you mean E6? Okay.
Oh, sorry, E6. I'm sorry.
E6 with this
E6,
idea.
and then
Whoops.
with the intent to go D5, so she could
Oh yeah, that's probably a kind of hope chest, I guess. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
you don't have to take.
Yeah, White can just leave it there.
Oh.
He doesn't
okay.
have to take. Yeah, that's what I concluded too. Yeah.
Anyway, so going back before E6, how can Black make the C5 pawn less of an issue? The problem is that it's undefended, right? Yeah, it's simple, right?
Yeah, you don't want to do something like this.
Yeah, if you can help, you don't want to tie one of your minor pieces, or especially queen, with defending a pawn, right?
Oh, okay.
So task your pawns to defending each other, right? They do a good job. So D6 would have been the best idea here. And although Black's position is not good, it's at least playable. Okay. Yeah, E6 is horrible because it leaves the C5 pawn in a bad situation. Now, how can White keep this C5 pawn weakness?
Bishop E5, B3.
Yeah.
Bishop E3 does attack it, but Black can, for example, play Bishop D4, shielding it.
Really? Okay.
So the pawn on C, what's that?
Knight A4.
Knight A4 does attack it, but Black can play D6 or Queen A5. It's also good.
Queen A5 would be really good in this situation.
Yeah, after
Yeah.
White has to play C3, which looks kind of awkward. So.
Yeah. Well, you have to play knight back to C3. Yeah.
So this sort of position, Black has a weakness on C5. We want to keep it that way. We can't just win it right away. Be a little bit patient.
Okay.
So to keep it weak, how do we stop his buddies from defending him?
E5.
Yeah, E5.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just simply stop his friend from defending him.
Now E5 does a lot of lovely things. That fianchettoed bishop is sad.
Yep.
It's very sad. This knight right here, this knight's very sad. I mean, yeah, the knight can play over here, or the knight could play over there, but the knight really likes that square, and that square is no longer his.
Yeah, E5 should be just like a gut reaction when you see this kind of
Yeah.
pawn structure.
Yeah, and it's
Whatever
also a fairly common idea in the 11 fish. your pawns are advancing to claim space. Create some room for your other pieces to build up behind them and come in and annoy black.
All right, so here white's already threatening 94, which is kind of nasty because he's threatening to take the. Well, he's actually not threatening to take the pawn because the queen a5, but knight d6 is pretty serious. So black doesn't really have much choice. He kind of has to play d6, or sorry.
Play d5.
Or okay, she played d5.
Yeah.
Okay, d6 probably would have been slightly better, but still not good. Now, should white take on d6, separating black's pawns, or should she leave the pawn structure as it is? This is not a simple question, by the way. Taking on d6 does look kind of aesthetically attractive because we give black 3 pawn islands, 2 Isolani's on c6 and c5. But
Then you get your queen
Leave
development,
it
right?
how it is because you shut down the bishop.
which bishop?
The G7.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, that's exactly the reason that she left it like that. Because she takes on d6, suddenly she's activated black's piece with gain of time. Now, in this position, black remains with the weak pawn on c5. So there's no reason to be too greedy and completely damage black's pawn structure. So here, knight f3, yeah, unfortunately for black, by the way, this is kind of reminiscent of a Nimzo Indian. I don't know how many Nimzo Indians you guys have seen. Not really?
No, it doesn't come up very much.
Okay, well, maybe I'll show like a Nimzo later to show you what I'm talking about. But in this kind of position, black would ideally like to have a knight on d7. He's a guard c5. But unfortunately, it's kind of hard for black to get that knight there. So, I think knight e7 was played. Or, okay, a5, yeah. a5 was horrible.
Horrible because you had that square for the queen, right?
Yeah.
And because you're just giving white kind of a tempo.
I mean,
tempo.
apparently black was trying to play a4, although I'm not sure why she just didn't consider knight a4, but, you know, we'll ignore the mistakes of black, right? It takes 2 to create a masterpiece, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. We look, just keep in mind that we look at this and go, well, you know, the black player was rated like 2,000, you know.
Yeah, that's
we
still
think,
pretty strong.
and we think 2,000, wow, 2,000. Remember from Warren's supervisor, it was like, oh, 2,000. Right, so, okay.
Yeah.
Keep in mind perspective differences sometimes. Okay.
So knight a4, yeah. So here it's just a direct attack on the c5 pawn. Not easy for black to defend, but I think she played, you know, bishop f8 or something. Or queen e7, okay.
That defends. Defend that pawn with a queen.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good time.
Now white's next move is pretty important here. So we've saddled black with a weakness on c5. Now you got to keep it there.
Is it too slow to play this and this?
Well, c3 doesn't keep the pawn on c5.
No, it doesn't, does it?
Let's see, d4 does.
Yeah, exactly. c4.
Because then if it takes and you take again, you still pin that pawn.
Yeah, this is a great example of just fixing a weakness. Once you give your opponent one, just keep it from moving. Even if black is able to sacrifice a pawn playing c4, it might be worth it. Maybe open up lines for light squared bishop or whatever. Okay, so yeah, bishop a6. And now black's attacking the pawn on c4. So what's the best way to defend a pawn? Probably know this familiar.
B3.
What's that? Yeah, b3.
With another pawn.
Yeah, another pawn. It's the easiest
With
way.
his buddy.
Yeah, also white's now threatening bishop a3, attacking from that way, right? E3 is less effective because black can block. So it does 2 things. Yeah, black's position is already kind of hopeless. I'm not sure what she did here. Of course, bishop a3.
Giving up that pawn, basically.
Yeah, black had no way to defend it here, by
For
the
some
way.
development, I suppose.
Yeah, just going back, I guess, you know, suppose black was desperate to defend c5. Bishop f8 comes to mind, right? So say like bishop f8, white plays bishop a3, and then black plays queen a7. Right? This does defend c5, right? No, this actually happens in some Nimzo Indians. It can happen.
Really?
Yeah.
You would put the queen on a7 and leave it there for a while, just to try to...
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, black can do this, but white can still put on the pressure with black with moves like queen d2, attacking a5, forcing black to play a sad move like bishop b7 or bishop c8 to defend it. And then from there, I actually don't think white has a way to force a win of the c-pawn, but...
Well, can you not reroute the knight somehow?
Yeah, maybe I take that back. So white can play after a bishop move like... Can you guys visualize the position very well?
Let's run through it. So we're saying that
So
if knight a3...
Or I'm saying instead of what black played, like bishop f8, just say, for example, instead of knight h6.
Okay, so let's go bishop f8.
Yeah, so bishop a3, attacking the pawn.
Right.
Queen a7.
Right.
Queen d2. Forcing, for example, say bishop b7.
Bishop b7.
Now white can play rook c1.
Okay.
Just trying to open up the c file with cd. Now black has to play d4. And now white has one last killer move here. Only one piece is not helping us attack the queen side.
You castle and then get the rook in.
Well, you could castle, but the rook on f1, I'm not sure how that's better. And the king's not exactly in danger on e1, so... What's white's worst piece here? The knight.
The other knight.
Yeah, knight a4 is actually good. Even though it's on the edge of the board, it's attacking weakness, pinning black's queen to a7. It's pretty awesome, right? Knight f3 is the only one that's not contributing. So what would be a great square for that knight?
E4.
E4, right?
D6.
Sorry, d6.
Well, yeah.
yeah.
D6 would be acceptable too, because you
Yeah.
get rid of our square bishop. But e4 is our real destination, right?
Right.
Because then we can just take c5 for free, since black has no way of defending it again.
So,
How can we get it to e4? G5, right? Yeah, so to knight g5 is pretty much resignable already. One problem is after c5 falls, d4 is also weakened, that's probably going to fall. So it's not looking very hopeful there. So that's why black wasn't so desperate to try to hold on to it. It just doesn't work out.
knight a6. Bishop a3. And then is black playing for counterplay?
Yeah, black was just kind of desperate at this point. You can just play through the rest. It's not really too much value.
Oh, that's cute. Okay. Oh, because you're going to track that pawn down. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, black just tries to sacrifice a piece anyway, but you know, white just traps the queen instead.
Oh, is that queen trap? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, how does white trap the queen here?
From here.
Rook e1, queen takes f4. White is winning there, but not winning the queen.
What about this move?
Yeah, knight g5, right? Because this way attack the queen by protecting f4 as well.
Right.
So that's what happened, and black just resigned.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was a lopsided game, but it's very instructive still. Fixing a weakness and attacking it.
Yeah, a c4 move. That just, you stay there until I figure out how to take you down, kind of thing.
But early on in the opening, the position was already pretty critical.
Yeah.
And black played that e6 move, but was pretty much losing already.
So just doubled up the pawns, then followed up with the plan of, you know, now I'm going to figure out a way to win that pawn and
Yeah.
bust your position.
Now, normally in the Rosalimo, that actually wouldn't be such a good idea for white. But here, the f4 move was critical for white because it allowed white to play that early e5 thrust and just really, you know, partition black's pawn.
Nice.
So, yeah, good point to keep in mind. So.
Okay, well,
So, yeah.
we have a couple more games for next week. We'll have about 3 more. It's probably going to be, this is probably going to be like a 3-part series, okay? And it's designed to really influence your thinking.